Face. Good. All right. Good evening, everyone. Getting started a little late, but we're good. All right. This is the public hearing for a cannabis retail license. The general board meeting will be at 7 o'clock, or if we run long, immediately afterwards. This public hearing is called to order on Monday, June 12th, 2023 at 6:39 p.m. at 1625 Ocean Avenue. The purpose of this meeting is to hear public testimony with respect to an application for a full licensure of a conditional adult use retail dispensary at 1056 Flatbush Avenue. The Community Board 14 office received notification on May 26th, and the state of New York allows 30 days should the board wish to express an opinion to the Cannabis Control Board. The applicant is BK Exotic Outlet LLC, doing business as BK Exotic, and has received provisional approval for a cannabis dispensary. The applicant is represented here today by Michael A. James from the James firm. Mr. James, do you wish to speak on behalf of BK Exotic? Yes, I do. Please take the microphone here.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. As Madam Chair said, my name is Michael James, and I represent the applicants. I'm also part of the management team as well. With me tonight is Angeline Cornelia and Robert Dorsey, husband and wife, and as well as Kevin Fernellis, who is the general manager of Good Grades, that's in Queens, and he will be the general manager of BK Exotic as well. Where we're located is 1056 Flatbush Avenue, and we are securing that space. It's a 3,300. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Good. Okay. It's a 3,300 square foot space, and we hope to provide jobs to the community as we've done in Queens. We also hope to be bring the first dispensary to your neighborhood. Hoping to do that in a safe space, a safe environment. Obviously, I'm an attorney. These are long-standing clients of mine, born and raised in Brooklyn. I couldn't think of better people to do it with, or better people to do this dispensary in Brooklyn. Robert knows Brooklyn probably better than anyone I know. I can't talk Brooklyn with him because he just knows it so well. But what they have done is use the conviction. Robert Dorsey is a justice impacted person, and he's used a conviction to bring this to a community that he calls home. And he wants to make sure that he's a good steward of this community, and if anyone's going to do it, to make sure that it's done in a safe manner, and the products that are on the shelves are representative of the community that it's in. He's making sure that that's what's happening. He selected the location. He's made sure that we've stayed to Brooklyn in this particular area, and we hope to follow up and to complete that mission that he has started. Our hours of operation will be 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. To begin, we'll have about 14 bud tenders and staff members coming from the local community in Brooklyn, all young people over 21 as the law requires. And if there are any questions about the team or about what we do, I can definitely answer those questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. James. We'll start with our registered speakers. We have, you're going to postpone? Oh, okay. We'll move on from questions from board members to start. Board member Nina Sabgir, you'll have to share the mic.
Can we use this mic?
We could use this one here. You can take that one off.
I have two questions. What kind of training will the staff have in terms of managing the products? That's question number one. Number two, what kinds of security are you going to have both for the neighborhood and also for the people working inside? Thank you.
Great questions. And I should have covered that as well. Great questions. So I'll start with the security. We'll have two security guards, one armed, one unarmed. That will be during the operation of the store. We do have the option of having a 24-hour guard. In Queens, where we've operated for about 3 months, we haven't seen the need for the 24-hour guard. We had him for a month, but we didn't. It was just a waste of money. So we'll have one armed, one unarmed. And for training, the general management team has put together a program in which we have training from the farmers themselves. So they come in, whoever's grown it, they come in and they teach them about the products. And that helps two things. That helps, obviously, the bud tenders to be educated about what they're selling and us be educated about what we're buying from these farmers, but it also helps us to educate you. When you come in, we'll be able to tell you what exactly you're purchasing. And if anything is awry, we know who to go to as far as the farmers go to. Yeah.
Go ahead, Board Member Barton Prasant. You'll have to come up to the mic since this is a public hearing.
Probably wouldn't have to, but I will anyway.
Well, for the live streaming as well, just to remind you.
Do I pick it up? Okay, thank you. A few months ago, we passed a resolution here on the profusion of illegal cannabis establishments. Had you had a chance to see that?
I have not.
Okay. I'd recommend getting a look at it because it sort of is a laundry list of how we feel that these can be poorly run. Among other things, for example, a function of the other products that stores like these would carry that might be children-friendly. There's one I know on Church Avenue that has, clay anime figures all in the windows, which, it just kind of makes you feel a little bit queasy knowing that maybe they're marketing to a crowd that, perhaps is not totally equipped to handle this sort of thing. So if you can get a look at that, that'll give you a good sense of the way this, at least community board, feels that these establishments, can best serve the community.
Great point. So the MRTA and the regulations actually prohibit us from doing any of that. And so the smoke shops that you're seeing, all of them are illegal, and they do not comply with any of the regulations that we will actually have to comply with. So we can't do any of that, or we'll lose our license. So I'm glad you brought that up. There's a massive amount of confusion about licensed dispensaries and smoke shops. And so you will see a massive difference between what we're offering, and it will actually be vanilla right now. We have to be really vanilla in how we present to the community because of the regulations. But I'm hoping that will comply with the neighborhood.
Would you like to go next? Okay. The question from Board Member Twain, Joseph.
I'm just curious, you mentioned during your presentation that your target audience or demographic for employees are younger people. I'm hoping that was just a slip up and that you're not going to be discriminating against some of our middle-aged and older adults.
So I said the employees.
Right, but
Right.
I mean.
Well, so it's not a discrimination against because it's just
Also because we have a community filled with a lot of older adults.
Right.
That are looking for part-time work sometimes, looking for full-time work, and they're just as capable of doing the job as the younger
Fair
folks.
point.
So
Fair
to
point.
consider them as well.
I will. We will. We will. Okay. Fair point. Fair point.
Next question will be from District Manager Sean Campbell.
Thank you, and nice to meet you.
too.
I have, my concerns are really about process that have less to do with your application, more to do just with the state. We didn't hear from OCM in a public hearing until just last week. One of the concerns that we expressed is the limits on what's considered sensitive sites, so the 200-foot rule and the 500-foot rule as they pertain to schools and churches. We suggested that there be some consideration for sensitive sites, also including treatment centers and congregate housing such as supportive housing facilities for people with mental illness, which is within, I think, 850 feet of your door, and then possibly even shelters, which is another couple hundred feet within a 1,000-foot parameter. So it's just as a process to be hearing it from applicants so soon after, it's still feeling like we're flying by the seat of our pants when it comes to the state law and the rules and the guidance that we're getting is of concern to me. And so those sensitive locations in my mind, although not codified yet, are a concern. And I wonder if you've looked into those, and yes, I'm happy to share the resolution with you, if you've looked into those aspects of the neighborhood and are aware of them and would somehow manage that. and it goes along with what was said too. You have to be carded to get into the store, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So taking that into consideration, then some of the busyness that the precinct is engaged in over there, what types of calls, because I have numbers that I'm happy to share, but a lot of 911 calls, like year-to-date, 6,000 calls within a 1,000-foot radius of the location. So in terms of your customers and the fact that you will also be an all-cash business as per the law, correct?
So we can actually take debit and credit now.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have to be all cash.
Okay.
So
That's a little bit
I'll let you
reassuring.
finish and I'll respond.
But I think you know where I'm going. Like
Yes.
these are concerns that we have about the location, both from a business point of view and a customer point of view, and then from what I consider a sensitive location point of view and how you'll deal with that.
Right. So that's a great point. What we've had to do is clear the location with the OCM for children's centers or churches and schools, and we're not within that distance of sensitive sensors. I do empathize with that, the perspective of having consideration for treatment centers and expanding that. I know that there was another dispensary opened across the street from a substance abuse center. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that is a big discussion. Yeah, it is a big discussion. As far as operating in a neighborhood that is very active for the police department, in Queens, we're also in a place that's very active. I was born and raised in Jamaica, Queens, and if you know anything about Jamaica, Queens, we're very active. We're very active, and one of the things that we did was we met with the police department, the commanding officer, before we actually opened with our security team. I don't know. I see. He's here. We'll reach out depending on how this goes tonight. But we do bring our security team to meet with the police department so that we are partners in the community and addressing those problems. So far, we've had no 911 calls to our dispensary in Queens. None. We had no issues. We've had issues around it that have nothing to do with us. But it's actually fortunate to see that we've had no issues. And so we hope to bring that to have that same standard of operation in Brooklyn. And at Flatbush, we don't anticipate to have those type of issues. And any issues that we have, they're rectified internally very quickly. So we hope not to be in that category. And what we've seen, we're not in that category.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to just solicit any comments from the public. Is there anyone here from the public that'd like to speak? Yes, I know. Just wanted to make sure we have a balanced group of voices. Okay, great. Ms. Valentin, Board Member Deborah Valentin.
I'm just wondering why. I understand you're the attorney and you're here to present, right? Since I live in the neighborhood and I'm a couple of blocks down from the area, I would like to hear from the management team.
Oh, I actually own part of the company as well.
Yeah, but you're not going to be there running the store.
We are, actually.
So can we hear something?
If you can, yeah. Would you like for them to introduce themselves?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me a little bit of your background. Okay.
I know.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angeline. Like Michael said, born and raised in Brooklyn. I was also a police officer. I worked at the 7-1 precinct, vested out after 7 years. Right now, I work for one of the biggest banks, largest banks in the nation, and I am a director of cybersecurity. So we do have that background, that professional background as well. My husband is the one that is getting the license, based off of some activities that occurred in his past. But he has changed, and we're now trying to get into business. We actually owned other businesses prior, so this that we're running. So yeah, this is why we're here, and we're trying to, come into the neighborhood and be a positive, spokesperson for the youth community, and that's pretty much it. I'll let him talk.
Hello, how y'all doing? Appreciate everybody here today. My name is Robert Dorsey, and I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I'm born in Brownsville. I was raised in Flatbush. I've been in Flatbush for over 45 years. I've been on every corner. I've been out there. I got locked up out there. I starved out there. I've been through all the stuff. I've been waiting for this day to come. And I think this is our time for us to really take over and do what we got to do right. And I want to appreciate, I appreciate the board members and everybody here, you know, and we're going to be good in the neighborhood, and we're going to have everything that's supposed to be right, you know, and I thank you.
Again, good evening. My name is Kevin Fernellis. I'm the general manager at BK Exotics. I am a Brooklyn native too. I did move to Nassau County at 12 years old. I went to PS 244. I'm excited to be part of this community again, and I ensure you that we would do everything possible to follow that we're compliant with OCM and that we're also compliant with ideas and decisions you guys make to ensure that we work in unison together. All right? So excited to be with you and get to know you guys more.
Thank you very much. We have a question from the executive director of the Flatbush bid and the Church Avenue bid. You'll have to come to a mic. Lauren Elvers Collins.
Hi, thank you. Hi, I'm Lauren from the Flatbush Avenue bid and Church Avenue bid. Just to mention that I did speak with a property owner who is not their property owner, but a colleague who was actually very much in favor. So I just wanted to mention that I have not spoken with your property owner. My question is more about the neighboring businesses. There still is a feeling, possibly an old-fashioned feeling about cannabis shops, and I just wanted to reach out and if this does go forward, to see if there were opportunities to bring the businesses, meet with the businesses, to get them more comfortable. It really, they are concerned, and there are a lot of illegal cannabis, as Barton was mentioning, and people see that as a negative, and if you do end up coming in, I wanted to make sure that there's a community within the neighboring, the neighboring stores, some of whom have been there for a long time. And I'll give you my card later so we can be in touch.
Absolutely. I think I can speak for all of us. We definitely welcome that meeting, to have that meeting and collaborate with fellow business owners.
Yes, if you would come up and please state your name and any affiliated organization if that's applicable.
Hi, my name is Nazia. I work in the industry, not affiliated to them in any way, but I just want to say I'm in support of cannabis dispensaries in general, and I just want to give a reason why from someone who's worked in science and medicine and health. So I know a lot of you are really kind of cautious from the smoke shops that are there. And I want to say these dispensaries are coming in from cannabis that has been tested, third-party tested, and they have products that are there to help with sleep, pain, and other ailments that are really helpful. And, they're actually there to kind of push these illegal shops out. And that's really what you want. You want to get these shops out that are selling products that you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know what's in there. It's not tested. So I just want to say again, I don't know these guys, but I just met Michael very recently. And I would say that if OCM is kind of giving them the okay, then, their application's probably been vetted through pretty well. And so I hope that you do give them a chance to kind of connect with the community because they are trying to do the right thing. They came through a social equity program that is trying to do the right thing through drug laws that really harmed people. And so I do hope you guys kind of have an open mind with that. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, let me start with Board Member Ed Powell, and we'll try to close it off with Board Member Carl Henry Cesar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I am a board member, but I'm also president of the 70th Precinct Community Council. And forgive me, I arrived late, but, and maybe someone asked this question earlier, have you been in touch with the precinct? Have you gone over and introduced yourselves, kind of made friends? I think that's going to go a long way.
Yes, thank you for the question. We have not done that yet, and I'll share a little bit more. Our security team, we're finalizing our security team. It's Bernard Adams, who's Mayor Adams' brother. He runs a security firm, and he'll be the one running our security as well. And so once we finalize that, we will meet with the police department, with the heads of their security term, so that we partner.
I understand that, but local is better. So you're within this precinct. So
Well,
please make a point.
He did say that they were planning on doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for the question.
Okay, can folks hear me? All right, great. So, good evening. Thank you very much for coming and presenting. And so, I'll be very brief with my questions. It's a two-parter, both process related. So the first one is, I would just like a little more clarity in terms of what policies or procedures your establishment would have in place for the money on hand, because I don't know the MRTA that well, but since marijuana is still on the Federal Controlled Substances Act, I'm guessing that leaves you small options in terms of where you could deposit the cash. So I'm just interested what policies you would have to take care of whatever cash you do have on hand if this goes forward. And then the second one is just a thought exercise. Like you said, per MRTA, people under the age of 21 are not allowed to come in. So I'm just wondering, if I'm a 17-year-old who comes in and I look like I'm over 20 and I have a fake ID, what would that process look like? So those are my questions.
So we do have extensive cash handling procedures. I'm not at liberty to share them publicly because obviously there's security concerns. Secondly, we have a Veriscan device that scans each ID, make sure that it's valid and that they're of the age. So it's not only visually checked, it's also digitally checked as well. So that is kind of eradicated by that system. But thank you for the question.
Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Considering the, yes, Chief of Staff for Assemblymember Rodney's Bouchot.
Thank you. Good evening, Lisa Derrick. Can you just tell me where this is located? I'm not sure of the address. It's on Flatbush, and what's the cross street?
Yeah, 1056 Flatbush Avenue.
What is the cross street? Beverly Road.
Beverly.
Okay. So.
Yeah, right across the street from Kingsley. The Crunch
Okay.
Fitness is right down the, yeah, a little down the block. Yeah.
It is the southwest corner of Beverly and Flat.
Beverly and Flatbush, okay. So the reason for my question is because I wanted to find out, I'm not sure of the answer to this question, for businesses that do open that use the name dispensary, is that legal for them to use the name dispensary if they're not a legal dispensary? Because that can be confusing. When people see dispensary, they may assume that it's legal, and I think we do have one in our district at the junction, not legal, but the name.
Oh, we've had hundreds of them
that say dispensary, that says the word dispensary. That's my question.
Yeah, dispensary or not, they're all illegal. Unfortunately, so even if they use the word, the business itself is illegal. So I guess it's a question for OCM, but OCM has come out now with a task force. The governor has implemented new powers, so they have had a few raids in Manhattan, and we're hoping by the time we get open that those will be taken care of in the neighborhood. That's the best that we've seen happening right now.
All right. I would like to get a recommendation from the interested board members in attendance on approval of, sorry, I want to go back to my script so I get the language right. I'd like a recommendation from the board so that we can go back to the full board in the meeting following this regarding the conditional adult use retail dispensary at 1056 Flatbush Avenue. And they will be doing business as BK Exotic. Is there a motion from the floor? Board Member Ed Powell.
Madam Chair, I recommend approval.
Okay. Do I have a second to that? Okay. Yes, I wanted to add a comment on this motion, if that's okay, regarding just asserting our concern in general, and this is not a concern for the business itself, but for the process of OCM, in terms of taking into account sensitive sites that include supportive housing and drug treatment sites. So that doesn't necessarily, since that is not part of their nomenclature right now, that doesn't affect this applicant per se, but we'd like to assert that. So I'd like to, in our approval, add this as a concern, not for this particular operator, but just as a matter of process. Does that still carry as a motion and seconded here? Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Just in terms of wording, would if the motion is to recommend support or support the application, does it sit well to word it so that the board has offers no objection to this impressive applicant, but continues to have concerns about sensitive sites, and this is being located within proximity to sites that we're concerned about? Does that capture everything and still offer the support that you feel like you're putting forth?
Board Member Barton Prasad.
My instinct would be maybe just divide it into two separate motions. Just send them both along. You know, if this is the first time out of the gate for this kind of procedure for our board and for them as well, maybe just not cloud the approval with any additional verbiage and simply, you know, we recommend support, and then just put forward a second motion and just send to OCM saying, you know, would you consider, you know, adding this to your list of criteria about the children climate site?
So they have to vote on the first motion before a second one is offered.
Just an
Yes, Board Member Gwen Wolin.
Yeah, I'm a little confused about this. Usually in the past, what we simply look for out of these meetings is a consensus of what we want to submit to the full board.
That's right.
And the full board is when a motion would.
Yes, I'm talking about a recommendation, but right now we have to vote on the recommendation to bring to the full board, right? Yes, we have to vote.
We've always in the past not had a recommendation. What we've simply done is a consensus that we all agree.
No, we have voted to, on a recommendation to bring to the full board. We're going to look at the body of people here, that we are in agreement, that we are going to bring this recommendation to the full board.
Madam Chair, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Walton's correct. The consensus came from the floor, and then there was a number of people who were hearing was done that way.
So tell me, how do we come to consensus? So what is the consensus, other than?
Yes, no, maybe, but a vote.
Right, and that's what, right, it's exactly what I'm talking about. We're going to do a yes, no on a consensus. We're not making any action other than a recommendation to bring to the general board. I'm confused, I'm trying to understand.
All we do is, how many people think this is a good idea to bring to the board and that we support it, and most people, I think, will. And then we get to the specifics of how we're going to work it.
That's exactly what's going to happen. There's usually days separating a public hearing from, and now there's just an hour.
The fact that it's on the same day shouldn't change the process.
So then, let's divide it into two separate recommendations. It's the first recommendation that we approve the application, and the second recommendation is that we assert our concern that OCM still hasn't considered treatment sites as, or other, as part of their sensitive area portfolio. Well, I guess. So, do I have consensus that we will divide this up into two separate items? The first being, yes? So by a show of hands, how many interested board members would like to approve this application so we can recommend that to the full board? Does anyone object? We have 3 objections on the recommendation. Anyone wish to abstain? Okay. 1 abstention. And then with regards to the second item, which is to our concern to OCM, in isolation from the applicant, okay, that we still have concerns regarding their portfolio or their definition of sensitive sites. That would be the second recommendation. Okay. So I'll ask anyone in the room to find consensus. Does anyone wish to support that second recommendation? Does anyone object to that second recommendation? 2, 3. And does anyone wish to abstain? 1. All righty. So we will recommend to the board approval of this application, and that we will recommend assertion that they expand the definition of sensitive areas. Okay? All right. That being said, this public hearing is closed at 7:10 p.m. Let's all take a minute to reorganize ourselves, and then we will immediately go into our general meeting. You're welcome. So are you going to stick around? Yeah. Okay. So I'll put your item after the district manager. I'm sorry, this is not my first public hearing. I'm just... Good evening, everyone. I know that was a really quick 30 seconds. I'm very timely. We're gonna go ahead and get this meeting started. Welcome, everyone. This is the general board meeting of Community Board 14. This meeting of Brooklyn Community Board 14 is called to order on Monday, June 12th, 2023, at 7:12 p.m. under the applicable statutes of New York State, the Charter of New York City, the board's bylaws, and Robert's Rules of Order. The board's policy is to encourage detailed public discussion of matters before the board at our committee meetings and at public hearings. Consequently, except by board members, there will be no public discussion at our regular monthly meeting of matters about which a public hearing or a committee meeting has been held. Specific service delivery requests or complaints should be brought to the attention of the district office staff by calling the board office during regular business hours or by visiting our website anytime. Other matters of civic interest may be brought before the board during our scheduled public comment period, which will begin tonight after all other business on the board's monthly meeting agenda has been concluded. No partisan political appeals or advertising of for-profit enterprises will be heard. Persons wishing to speak during the public comment period were asked to pre-register, and registration to speak during that public comment period is going to end promptly before we start that period. So if you're not signed up, we'll have to see you next time. The minutes were distributed via email, and there were copies at the table here. Were there any changes submitted to the board office via email? Okay. Are there any changes from the floor? I believe Board Member Carl Henry Cesar has a change.
Sweet. All right. Yes, I do. Good evening. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. My suggested revision is on page 4 of the minutes, section B. in regards to youth service, educations, and libraries. When it talks about the voting period for participatory budgeting, it states that it's open from May 10th to June 5th. My understanding is that the period is open from May 10th to June 25th. So that is the suggested revision. That's it.
Thank you very much. Any additional changes from the floor? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adopt the minutes with the changes that Board Member Carl Henry Sazler outlined? Second? Thank you. All those in favor of adopting the minutes of the May 2023 meeting? Anyone object? All right. Anyone abstain to vote? All right. The minutes of the May 2023 General Board meeting are approved. Thank you. Moving on to the District Manager's report. District Manager Sean Campbell.
Thank you. First and foremost, we announced last month that we would be holding our annual reception on June 21st, and we're still going to do that. Everybody is welcome to join us. It's a party, and it's a great way to recognize some of our friends in government and in the community. The change, though, is that it was announced elsewhere, but it's really going to be right here, and we know you can all find it because you're sitting here now. So 6 to 9, June 21st, please join us. And sorry for the change in venue, but we'll get the word out to everybody else. Tell your friends, bring them along, and we're looking forward to that event. Take a look around the community. A lot of art is going up at the junction. There is a big umbrella installation, and along Newkirk Plaza, there's going to be a number of murals being painted. So that's very exciting. Board members only. Your committee preference forms have been sent to you via email. There's hard copies on the back table. The hard copies have a QR code on the back, and you can get them, the QR code on the website too? No, you can't, but it's right there sitting at the table. So if you have to send out a paper one, that's there too. But for those of you who can do that QR code and get your committee preferences to us sooner rather than later. There's a deadline. They're not due until over the summer, but just do it now because we're talking about it now and then you won't forget. I want to mention that there was a Borough Hall public hearing on Borough President guidelines on rules as they pertain to community boards, both in the appointment procedures and also in the administrative assistance that they provide to community boards. A lot of pushback on the administrative assistance because it would be onerous to add a lot of the steps they wanted to add. So I want to thank the borough president for reconsidering some of those proposals. And so we'll keep you updated on what they decide to do. Finally, I want to let you know that the office will be opened all summer. I think you all know that, but just a reminder, just because we're not meeting doesn't mean that we're not there. So be in touch with any questions, concerns, or just to say hello. There are a lot of events going on this summer, so we'll see you at the street fairs, National Night Out, and just around town. Go ahead, Ed, you had a question?
Oh, snap.
I'm sorry. We didn't take roll call. We do have quorum, so the passage of the minutes will still be legitimate, but we can go back so that everybody knows who's here. That's the end of my report.
When was this email sent out with the preferences?
It was with your board meeting reminder. Patricia, could you the committee preference form was sent out with the board meeting reminder, correct? Yes. Okay. Mr. Nierenberg might not have gotten his if you could resend it in the morning.
I am so terribly sorry, and I thank you so much, Board Member Ed Sen, for checking me. All right, we're going to call attendance. That will be done by the secretary.
Good evening, everyone.
I think you should use a mic, please.
Good evening, everyone. I thought for a second I'd get away without doing the attendance, but thanks for calling. All right. Wakil Ahmed. Gregory Alvarez. Here. Hindi Bendal present. Benjamin Bendit. Here. Christopher Bromson. Joanne Brown.
Present.
Michelle Brunson, Edward Sen, Carmen Cirabel, Henry Carl Caesar, Florencia Changa Jada, Yvette Clergine, Mark Cohn, Stephen Cohn, Elizabeth Dennis, Derek Donald, Sabina Derville, Joseph Dweck, Yehuda Eckstein, Lee Harmon, Musa Hassan, Mehdi Porpikari Harris, Mordechai Huzarski, Nautica Johnson, Dwayne Joseph, Shahid Khan, Naomi Lipnick, Donna Loggins, Sasha Masluski, Melissa Minich, Ephraim Nirenberg, Boris Noble, Eric Ast, Ornella Parker, Susan Phillip, Tzvi Plotzker, Edward Powell, Barden Prasant, Mohammed Razvi, Raza Bazaruhi, Nina Sagver, Talisha Seinville. Talisha Seinville? Okay. Moshe Schoenfeld, Joel Siegel, Gail Smith, Abraham Treff, Deborah Valentin, okay. Corzan Valiente, Don Murray Walker, Glenn Wallen. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much, everyone. All right, moving the agenda to the chair's report. Good evening, board members. June is Caribbean Heritage Month. Happy Pride Month, happy Juneteenth, happy Father's Day to all those that father children, animals, and plants. And then lastly, wishing you a happy Eid al-Adha. So I've been thinking a lot about some things, and we're gonna, we have our hiatus coming up over the summer. And I wanted all of us to maybe use that time to do some outreach as community board members. I want to make sure that we have an understanding that we are 50 people out of 165,000 people in this district. And I want us all to have an understanding that it's not only about our opinions and our anecdotes and our personal experiences, but it is that you also represent the people in your microcosm, the people that live in your building and on your block. So go to a block party, introduce yourself as a board member, ask them what they think about bike lanes or cannabis shops or anything pressing that we have on our agenda. Find out what their pains and gains are. Hit up the neighborhood associations. Start a social media page for your microcosm, that block or two that you live in. Post flyers about important topics in your building if allowed. And if you own your home, post a flyer on your fence about an important meeting. I want us to have a continued discussion about how we frame things in committee meetings. I have some feelings about when we start a statement with I am. I sort of feel like the only people that get to say I am at a committee meeting should be public members. You can say I am after perhaps you also tell us about the people that live around you. My neighbors are all bikers, and I know that they support bike lanes. And I'm a driver, and I live in this community too. So I want us to find some balance in how we interact with our agencies and how we represent those people that are around us. Because really, the duty of a community board member, in addition to your own opinion, is to think about, you know, who you're representing too, and making sure that you've done the outreach and you can speak to their needs. Thanks for letting me say that. Do I have any questions on this? Yes.
If I might also say that that issue, we're leaders in our communities, and the community board has really been under attack. All community boards are under attack. We have to advocate for the community board, meaning that we need to tell our people in our community to use the board, to call, to call the board when they have questions and issues. It makes the board stronger. Otherwise, frankly, 311 is going to take over from the boards. So we need to strengthen what we're doing, and as the chairwoman said, to please be a leader in your demographic.
Yeah, the legitimacy of community boards and the utility is, there's a lot of skepticism. So I just want to make sure we don't feed into that, and that we're truly doing the job of representing 165,000 people. I don't think anybody else has a question. If you do, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to recognize those elected officials and those that are representing elected officials in no particular order. From Councilmember Farrell Lewis's office, Sabrina DeJuice. I see you back there. I saw you. From the New York City Deputy Public Advocate, Kashif Hussain. Thank you for being here. From Assemblymember Rodney Bichot Hermelin, Lisa Derrick, thank you for coming. From DA Eric Gonzalez, Nancy Lulu. From Congresswoman Yvette Clark's office, Ellie Slavin. From the Flatbush and Church Avenue bids, Lauren Elver Collins. The 70th Precinct Community Council President, Ed Powell. And from the 78th Precinct, Police Officer Micah Joseph from Community Affairs. Thank you for coming.
Yes, we missed somebody.
Where is she? Oh, hi. You always going to call me out? Yes?
I'm here from Councilmember Rita Joseph's office.
Oh, what's your name?
Brian Grady.
Brian Grady is here from Councilmember Rita Joseph's office. And I have you on the list. Hold on. And, no. I have it here somewhere. Okay, from Iris. And from Senator, I have you here. Senator, sorry about that. State Senator Zelnor Myrie, Portia Edwards. Welcome. Oh, okay. And our Assembly Member, Rodney Bichot Hermelin, just walked in. Would you like to address this body? Sure. If you wouldn't mind taking the microphone here. Oh, okay. Thank you. Because of the live streaming.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Good. Good evening. Happy I was able to make it in time. I want to thank everyone for being here on this rainy night. It's raining outside, okay? So yeah, unfortunately. But happy June month, and community board, to the chair, to the district manager, to our former president, and all of the members here. Good evening. My name is Assemblymember Rodney Bichot Hermelin. I know some of you haven't seen me. I've been in Albany, and we just came back from Albany, passing a number of bills. And I wanted to share with you some of the activities, some of the events, some of the accomplishments that we did. First, I want you to know that we passed Clean Slate. Does everybody know what Clean Slate is? Yes, it's giving formerly incarcerated members who have served their time a second chance in life to, yes. to reintegrate in the community, and depending on the offense, to seal their record, because many of them coming to our community, they have no housing, they have no jobs, and it's very difficult to reintegrate. And it was a very hard, long-fought bill that we've been trying to pass for a very long time, and the advocates been pushing, our legislators. Catalina Cruz is the sponsor of the bill. I'm a co-sponsor, and so we're very happy about that. We also passed the New York State Community Commission on reparations. Yes, yes, that's another one. What does that mean? We finally put a commission together to discuss and to research all those who were affected, who were descendants of slavery in the state of New York. And they're going to put groups together. There's going to be a whole research going on in terms of how do they want to do the reparations. As you know, California, they had voted on 3 times their budget, so that might not be realistic in terms of a payout to those who were the descendants of slavery in California. So it's a big thing, and so we're really excited about that. We also voted on All Electric Building Act, okay? That would require buildings, new building construction of 7 stories or less, and commercial property that's 100,000 square feet to use electric heat, appliances instead of fossil fuel. And there's a whole bunch of things that's going to be part of that. We also voted on 2 new school holidays. Yes, Lunar Year. Yeah, Lunar Year will now be an official school holiday, and Diwali. Yes, exactly. And that was a really hard fight, okay, because the state right now have 180 days for the city of New York, and it was really tough finding how we're going to do this, but the chancellor and the mayor and the whole team will figure out how we're going to do this. But for now, we enacted Diwali Day, and we're really excited about that, and Lunar Year. We also passed a number of my bills, I would say, around minority and women business enterprise, around the sale of tobacco in state buildings. One is the Mickey's Law, which was about the management of the death of a fetus. In the state of New York right now, if an expectant mother or an expectant person was pregnant and the fetus is dead, there's no guarantee that they would remove the fetus immediately. Mickey's parents was told to wait for 2 weeks. Yes, 2 weeks before they could remove the dead fetus. So now we have a law that's put in place that will find a way to remove the dead fetus as soon as possible. And if the hospital refused to remove it, because there's some abortion laws, they would find another place to remove the dead fetus. Thank you. So just a couple of events that we are. Oh, we also passed the Lead Pipe Right to Know Act. This bill would require public water systems to take an inventory of all the service lines and indicate whether those lines contain lead or other materials and make the information available to the community. That's very, very important. I want to talk a little bit about a couple of events that we're going to have. We were very happy to hold our State of the District and our Women Distinction Award ceremony. And I would like to let you know that one of the honorees just passed, Jennifer Searles. So we are holding her family in the community in prayers. We are looking at other events coming up. We have our annual Men's Day of Health, which was supposed to be this past on the 6th or the 7th, But what happened is we had the whole air quality issue and we had to cancel it, so we will reschedule for the screening of prostate cancer, right? It was just right. We are also expecting to have our subway office hours throughout the community. So we're looking everybody to stop by. We're bringing the services out to people. So instead of folks making appointments to come into my office, we'll be at different train stations, locations, where whatever issues you have, you can bring it to us so that we can follow up. We also will have our back to school event that we typically have with PS 315, right by the corner of Glenwood and East 27th, I believe, with the public school over there. So we're looking for everybody to participate. Other than that, it's been a long road. Again, I'm happy to see everyone. My Chief of Staff, Lisa Derrick, is here. If you have, give a round of applause. And whatever questions you may have, please, we've been fighting for money. Or another thing that we fought for was for doula. So the doula program, we were able to get Medicaid reimbursement for doula providers. That's a big thing. Very big. And we're just continuously working. Now, here's the thing. Because we have so many bills, we didn't finish. So we have to go back. So we're going to go back towards the end of June to finish passing some great bills. And unfortunately, I will just send out a notice in terms of what bills they are. But if anybody have any questions, please let me know. You have any questions?
We're not taking questions. Are you?
Oh, I
Yeah,
don't know.
we'll just take one question.
Okay.
Jam-packed.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Not feeling guilty. So in June or next session, I gather there's a fair bit of affordable housing-related legislation that languished, 421A evictions, et cetera.
Yeah.
Any of that can be taken up in June?
No. That is so complicated. So there was a whole suite of housing issues. One was good cause eviction. So good cause eviction, they amended it a little bit because they were thinking about the homeowners, and they increased it to I think up to 8 units will be exempt from that. But there was some issues around good cause. In addition to that, no one did not want to talk about 421A, okay, the tax abatement. So that's something to come probably for next year that will not be taken up in June. The housing compact is another issue that the governor wanted to roll out. That's with all the affordable housing, as well as the office conversions. You know about the office conversions, correct? So anything about housing was not put forward because I guess it's going to be a whole housing package. So June, it will be too soon, unless there's a special session that the governor calls for us to come back and vote on these things. And there might be. Who knows?
All right. Thank you very much for being with us tonight,
All right.
Assembly Member.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a pleasure seeing all of you. I miss you all.
Moving on to the next item in my report, we have the Committee of the Whole. The board will convene during the months of July and August only if officially notified of an item that requires a veto, in which case it's recommendation that the board vote on a resolution empowering the Committee of the Whole to act on behalf of the full board. This enables the board to satisfy its quorum requirement during the summer months. Just full disclosure, the City of Yes zoning text amendment, zoning for carbon neutrality, this is a little preview, but there was a recommendation from the public hearing to punt that to the Committee of a Whole so we can have a greater understanding of that zoning text amendment. So I just want to say that, and you know that while we're going ahead and forming the Committee of the Whole over the summer, okay? Do I have a motion to empower the Committee of a Whole? Seconded? All those in favor? Anyone object? Anyone wish to abstain? All righty. Committee of Whole is empowered. Thank you. Moving on to our public hearings. The first public hearing I will report out on is the retail cannabis dispensary application for BK Exotic Outlet LLC, proposed for 1056 Flatbush Avenue. That was so long ago. The purpose of this hearing was to hear public testimony with respect to an application for full licensure of a conditional adult use retail dispensary license at 1056 Flatbush Avenue. The applicant is BK Exotic Outlet LLC, doing business as BK Exotic, and has received provisional approval for a cannabis dispensary. There were 2 recommendations from the public hearing from interested board members. The first recommendation was for the board's opinion is to approve the application for the adult use retail dispensary at 1056 Flatbush Avenue. Now, I use the word opinion because that is the word that the Cannabis Control Board uses. So I just wanted to make sure for the record we're understanding that this is our opinion. Okay. The result of the recommendation was not unanimous. 24 members voted in the affirmative, 3 voted to object the approval, and there was 1 abstention. So based on the recommendation from interested board members, do I have a motion regarding approval of the application?
I'm sorry, didn't we say about the proviso that?
Yeah, we split it into two different items. I'm sorry. What is your question?
I did not that we approved 2 different items. It's 2 items?
We voted twice, yes. Yes. So the first recommendation was to approve the application. Motion to approve? Seconded? Okay. All those in favor of approving the application? Okay. All those that object? Okay. Anyone wish to abstain from voting? Is anyone ineligible to vote? All right, that motion carries. The second recommendation was to add an insertion to our opinion to OCM outside of the application's merits, that OCM should expand sensitive sites such as supportive housing and treatment centers to the list of areas that need a buffer distance, a buffer of distance. That was not a unanimous recommendation. 24 voted in the affirmative for that recommendation, 3 voted to object, and there was 1 abstention. Based on, yes?
I'm just wondering if we're happy with the 200 feet.
We're not being prescriptive about it, we're just asking for it to be added to the sensitive site list.
Yes.
I have a question about this sensitive site. Can you just explain that a little bit more? Like, what's the sensitive site? Where, like, there's some people that kind of confused as to.
So in the meetings that we've had with OCM, we pointed out that in our district we have an area where we have shelters, a treatment center, and supportive housing. And that was the one area, and we brought that to their attention. We asked them to add it to their portfolios of sensitive sites, but it hasn't. I mean, it's been very recent that we've been talking to them, and they've been have had sort of, I'm not going to say a fully formed plan, but a plan that has been evolving because the governor had empowered them in additional ways, right? So we had brought this to their attention, and it just so happens that this application is very close to that area. So to not sort of step on the merit of the application, we do again want to assert that we think it's important that OCM look at not just for this district, but citywide and statewide, that sensitive areas could be considered to need a buffer of distance. I mean, oh, are you looking also for an example of what's on there now? Like schools and churches and?
Yes.
That, yeah.
Whether it be schools or churches or for, you mentioned shelters or, you know, other things of that nature, how close is this site to this applicant to those things? If we're gonna put that in as a part of the recommendation?
Well,
how close?
I don't think, again, it's more of an assertion, it's more of an assertion generally than it is this application, because they're still sort of evolving their regulations, and we'd like this to be included, but we don't want it to be necessarily part of their approval. And do you want to answer that question?
What the state considers sensitive site now is just follows along with what the state liquor authority uses in its sensitive site definitions, which are schools and churches. And the door of the establishment can't be within 200 feet of a school and 500 feet of a house of worship, I should say. So this was just to add on to that without saying which 200 or 500 feet it should be considered. And then they could roll out the distance that they felt appropriate, but they won't even consider those as sensitive sites in the same ways that schools and houses of worship are.
We typically don't take comments from the public. Maybe you can connect after. Thank you. And just to reiterate, we don't usually take public discussion about a matter that we had in public hearing, but she represents an elected official. Okay. So, getting back to, I think we're all on the same page. Board member, are you fine with us not being prescriptive with this item? That it's just more an assertion? Okay.
I just, because some of the examples that what I used was 1,500 feet and 1,000 feet. So I'm just wondering that if you think that that's so close, if we could add some language that they consider expanding the distance to some of these emphasize as opposed to 200 and 500. 200 is really close. 500 is a little bit further. 800 and 1,000. I don't know, I'm just thinking that I think they're saying something.
Well, let's get through asserting our opinion, and then we can talk about that again.
It would come back to public hearing, and so there would be an opportunity to get more specific. This is just getting them to look in that direction. And it comports with other boards in the city, like CB3, which had hosted the first cannabis retail dispensaries, so it's kind of supporting colleagues who've already had the experience too, colleagues and communities.
All right. Do I have a motion to add this assertion to OCM outside of the application? Thank you. We'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor? All those that object? One. And any member that wishes to abstain? We have one, two. Alrighty. All right, the motion carries. Thank you. I just want to thank the applicant. You don't have to stick around anymore. There's a lot, we got a lot of stuff. Thank you for being here, and good luck to you.
We'll be in touch. Thanks. You adopt the basket on the corner.
Yes, come to more board meetings. All right. Moving on to the next public hearing. This was a hearing with the Office of Cannabis Management. The purpose of this hearing was to hear public testimony with respect to the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, which creates a comprehensive regulatory structure to oversee the licensure, cultivation, production, distribution, sale, and taxation of medical, adult use, and cannabinoid hemp within New York State. Comments from the public and interested board members included an application notification of 30 days is too short considering the necessity to publicly notice public hearings and the ratification of those recommendations of board members who attended such public hearings. And an appreciation of improvements to the OCM scope to include new direct enforcement powers bestowed by the governor to control the proliferation of illicit smoke shops. And with that came a question, can landlords be held responsible for illicit smoke shop activities? The Office of Cannabis Management is anticipated to file the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, otherwise known as MARTA, passed by the Cannabis Board on 5/11/23 to the New York State Department, where their 45-day public comment period will begin. Questions and comments collected during our public hearing will be sent to OCM for this public comment period. I'd like to introduce a motion that we present the public comments and comments from board members to the public record. Sorry, I didn't write this down. So those comments and questions collected during the public hearing will be sent to OCM. So the motion is to send those comments and questions to OCM before the 45-day period closes. So that would be second. Thank you. All those in favor on sending those comments from the public hearing to OCM? Those that object? Anyone?
Is Mrs. Bendel on record on this vote?
Huh?
Is Mrs. Bendel on record on this vote?
You can stay there, but she's gonna vote.
Yeah, okay.
Anyone object? Anyone abstain? Anyone ineligible to vote? Thank you so much. Motion carries. All right, now we move on to the big one. The City of Yes zoning for carbon neutrality. This is a public hearing. The purpose of this public hearing was to invite public comment on a proposed zoning text amendment referred to as the City of Yes for zoning for carbon neutrality. On April 24th, 2023, the Department of City Planning referred out the City of Yes for carbon neutrality citywide zoning text amendment, beginning the public review process. The proposed zoning text amendment intends to implement changes to the city's zoning resolution to remove impediments to and expand opportunities for decarbonization products within all zoning districts and across all 59 of the city's community districts. The application for zoning text amendment was subject to community board review. However, zoning text amendments are not subject to uniform land use review procedure. The Department of City Planning is referred this application to affected community boards for 60 days. Comments or recommendations on this application are due by July 3rd, 2023. The Department of City Planning announced intentions to impose 3 City of Yes zoning text amendments in the fall of 2022. CB14 held a preliminary meeting with DCP to review intentions and goals prior to the release of any text amendment details on September 19th, 2022. CB14 hosted a Fund for the City of New York Planning Fellow, Morgan Ruther, who monitored the unfolding of the proposal and studied some implications as they relate specifically to CD14. These findings were presented at a Housing and Land Use Committee meeting at May 10th, 2023. The recommendation from interested board members was to table the matter, so a review of the expanded ZTA slide deck promised by DCP and the annotated zoning text could be reviewed. However, I received notification that the Borough Board will be hearing about this matter on July 17th. So in relationship to us moving this to a committee of the whole in August, and therefore our comments would be submitted before September 13th, before the City Planning Commission meets, I would have to abstain from voting on this zoning text amendment because I don't have a recommendation from the board. I don't have an approval. We're pending. So what we'll do is we'll vote on the recommendation that came from interested board members at the public hearing, which was to table the item so that we could further review and meet in August to have a further discussion and formulate an opinion. And keep your vote, keep the way in which you vote in mind. And then after, if it carries, I'm going to ask everyone to vote on setting a placeholder on this, so at least I can bring comments to Borough Board even if I can't vote on it, okay? And those comments would be a placeholder to DCP's website by July 3rd. I know, making a big, yeah, yes.
The question I have is, the committee of the whole, is that going to be in person or Zoom, and is everybody invited?
So everyone is, of course, invited, and we will do it remotely. The only thing I will say is we will have to be less formal. It is understood that June 20th, the COVID emergency order that gives us the ability to meet and conduct business in a formal manner will not be extended. So we would have to just come to consensus, and then we will ratify the consensus at our general meeting, and then in rapid succession, they will be submitted to DCP for the CPC's consideration.
The last question is the paperwork that lists all of these changes. So
It's 163 pages is the code.
But will we have an opportunity to review that prior to this meeting?
Well, it is available on DCP's website. We can definitely remind everyone of the link to that, and I think we're still waiting on the expanded slide deck from DCP. Okay. Yes.
So just to clarify, if we want you to have an opinion at the Borough Board, we would need to vote this motion down to postpone it to August.
No, but what I'm going to introduce is, no matter which way that goes, the vote, I'm going to introduce a second, another option, which is going to be giving, creating a placeholder. Well, let me get there, but it would be creating a placeholder of all the comments and things that we've collected, submitting that to DCP.
Well, that's what the placeholder is. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Yes. Just so I would at least be able to have a conversation that reflects the board, not necessarily vote. I would still abstain because we don't have a decision, okay? I just don't think we're going to get there tonight to approve this. I think everyone still needs some digestion, a little bit. Maybe not. You tell me if not. Yeah, 163 pages. All right, so the recommendation was to table the matter to review at the Committee of the Whole in August. Do I have a motion for that? Second? You're all so quiet tonight. Am I talking too much? All right, all right. All those that will approve to table this matter for the additional information until August Committee of the Whole meeting, say aye. Anyone object? Two objections. All righty. Anyone wish to abstain? Anyone ineligible to vote? All right. My next proposal, as I've stated 3 times, is that we will take the comments from the public hearing. We will take the findings of Morgan Ruther. We will take the frustrations that we have said over and over again to DCP about introducing things so close to our hiatus. We will compile them into a placeholder. We will put them into the DCP website so that they are publicly recognized. I will refer to these items at Borough Board on July 17th. And that is the proposal that I'm bringing to you right now. Yes.
I think, and Greg, I think, confirm this if you can. The DCP deadline, I mean, to have something on the ZAP portal, that has to be submitted by July 3rd. So the other thing that this added item would do is put us on record, so it doesn't look like we are not commenting because we haven't looked at it, but that we're still in the process of considering the details of the proposal. I think the ZAP portal makes you put in either a an approval or a disapproval, so it could be a a conditional approval. That's the other thing. Approve, disapprove, approve with conditions, disapprove with conditions. It's usually the tradition of this board to approve with conditions, and those conditions would be, the approval would be on the goals of the item, and then the conditions would be the teasing out of all the details and to the satisfaction of the board for ultimate approval. Is that okay? Did I butcher that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. So, I'll have to add that, to this way to approach it in terms of adding the placeholder, that we would add it as approval with conditions, because typically we like to act in the affirmative here. Yes?
Yeah, just a point of order. Maybe it would be helpful to sort of understand the broad strokes of what might go into the placeholder that we're suggesting, just the topics of comments that came back from the public meeting.
Sure. Well, we know about Morgan Ruther's report and the recommendations for understanding stormwater management, and then some additional, and whoever was in the meeting, feel free to chime in. There was talk about financial concerns and how these zoning text amendments are going to be applied to buildings and how they're going to be funded. There were comments regarding how 1 and 2 family homes are not prescriptive in this item, although 1 and 2 family homes should be participating in creating a more carbon neutral city. Yes?
Just a couple, I think, out of Morgan's report were increased use of green space and green techniques to improve stormwater management and porous pavement.
Yeah.
I think was one as well.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything that they remember from the public hearing? Yes?
I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding of what is being changed because of the zoning versus what is being, or from the meeting versus what, like things like Local 197, which the zoning is, which is already passed, and we don't have a comment on, that is, these zoning changes are supposed to try to help make it easier for buildings to come into compliance with, and I don't know if that's something maybe we can all kind of try to review a little bit before committee of the whole.
Well, I think 1197 is a good example of how the DOB will act in terms of taking the zoning text amendment and bringing it forward to move into carbon neutrality. So I don't think that it was necessarily a conflation between 1197, which has already passed and is working and being enforced at this time. I think it's more about getting DCP, and that was another comment, getting DCP out of a silo, and even though they are siloed, and we see that with a lot of agencies, that was another comment that, while there is federal and state funding and city funding, there could be a little bit more of a concept between the aspirational and the practical that was said. And a comment to create a task force, to sort of an interagency, which I thought was really smart, an interagency task force. So these are the kinds of things that we would put in our placeholder, and then we can jump off of that in the committee of the whole. Any other comments? All right. So do I have a motion to create this placeholder for the ZAP portal? It would probably be filed under approved with conditions, because that has been the tradition of the board. I don't necessarily, the consensus to me here is that all of us want this, right? We all want a greener city. We want a safer city with regards to how we move into the future, and that we don't contribute more than we already have to climate change. So I think it's safe to say it would be approval with conditions. Do I have a motion for this? Seconded? All right. All those in favor? All those that object? Anyone abstain? Yes. If you like, you can abstain for now, and then we can all have a conversation and get you a little more situated in what we're doing with this particular thing. This is, this is really all because DCP has presented something where we don't have enough time to opine on it. And this is the third time that this has been done, at least. Oh, did I say that? Sorry. All right. Motion carries. Thank you. Let's see if my computer will function. Great. All right. Oh, Borough Board report. Oh, this is going to be so quick. On Tuesday, June 6, 2023, the Borough Board meeting was held via WebEx. The first presentation was from the Prospect Park Alliance. They presented a proposal to reconstruct the pergola at the southeast corner of the historic landmark Prospect Park, AKA the Parkside entrance. The reconstruction work would attempt to bring the pergola's design back as closely as feasible to its original 1890s condition by replacing in kind the deteriorating timber trellis and reconstructing the original granite surfaces. Those columns are granite, not paint. I was amazed. Reproducing the original McKim, Mead, and White design, including a wood lattice between the columns at the rear, and replacing the existing sodium lighting with more discrete LED lighting. The wisteria that currently envelops the pergola will be cut back to perform the restoration work and is expected to regrow to cover the pergola again in a few years. All those eligible to vote, including CB14, voted to approve. There were no objections and one abstention. The next presentation on the City of Yes zoning for carbon neutrality from the Department of City Planning. Community Board 14 received the same exact presentation at our public hearing on 6/8. Question and answer comments from the Borough Board members was very similar to those expressed at our public hearing. Because individual community boards are still receiving their presentations on this matter from DCP and formulating their responses, the Borough Board will meet again on July 17th to decide on this matter. So I don't think CB14 is going to be the only one without a firm opinion, and that we'll have to meet later on. The last presentation was on the installation of 5G towers from the Office of Technology and Information. Community Board 14 received the same exact presentation at our CECAED committee meeting on 5/31. Questions and comments from Borough Board members were very similar to those expressed at our public hearing, and this was not a voting item. Are there any questions about the Borough Board report? All right. I wanted to report out briefly that I attended Congresswoman Yvette Clarke's 2023 Energy Roundtable on May 19, 2023. The panel was comprised of Julie T., President of the New York League of Conservation Voters Education Fund, New York State Senator Parker, New York City Council Member Sandy Nurse, and New York City Deputy Public Advocate Kashif Hussain, who's here with us tonight. For the sake of time, I just want to refer you to the NY League of Conservation Voters, who published an excellent consumer guide outlining, it's really excellent, it's really, really excellent, outlining all of the federal and state rebates and credits available until 2032. We're talking home electrification, solar batteries and geothermal, heating and cooling and ventilation, including heat pumps, and how to work with your utility provider for more information. Their website is nylcv.org. And you should be able to find the consumer guide there, and I'm going to try to round some up from the council members, from the Congresswoman's office. Any questions? All right, guess what? This ends the chair's report, thank goodness. Moving on to topical committees. The first report is going to be from Community Safety Committee and Human Services Committee jointly, because they had a joint meeting to report on.
likes to get her steps.
Okay. Okay, good evening, everybody. On March 24th. Better?
Yeah.
Okay. On March 24th, May 20th, Community Safety and Human Service Committees joined together to present an interactive presentation from DYC Inc. and the FDNY. So we had a Narcan presentation. Outreach Coordinator Paul Maria Navasky demonstrated how to apply Narcan to someone who overdosed, and we all received 2 rescue kits, which included gloves, a face shield with instructions, 2 nasal sprays containing 4 milligrams of Narcan, and instructions on how to administer Narcan, as well as information as what it is and how it works. So we were told about signs to look for to see if someone passed out. And some of those signs are that they have blue lips, blue fingers. What we should do is we should make a knuckle and rub their sternum and listen for gurgling sounds. And we should call 911 and administer the Narcan. The FDNY had a presentation of compression CPR presented by Stacy and Cosmo. And they provided compression-only training during the meeting, and that's used to keep the blood circulation so that the vital organs receive oxygen until the emergency responders arrive. During the training, each participant had a CPR torso to practice on, and we were taught to place the heels of our hands between the chest and the abdomen, press down to 2 inches, and then perform 100 compressions per minute. And the song Staying Alive, that has like 100 beats per minute, so that's a good song to keep in your head or to play while you're doing the CPR. The whole point is to keep going until they come, and it's very tiresome. So if there's more than one person who knows how to do the CPR compressions, you could take turns. You have them, and you have them next to you, and you switch when you get tired. And the use of AEDs was also demonstrated.
And this is what the kit looks like. And inside has gloves and, 2 Narcan tubes that you can administer. So just to show you what it looks like. This is what the tube looks like. But we'd like for you next time to just register and attend the next training we have next year. Oh, I'm sorry, was that what you were going? Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. It doesn't hurt to hear it twice or even 3 times. Knowing all of these things, how to use Narcan, or how to at least identify somebody that you suspect has a drug overdose is really, really important, because, sometimes you can just see someone and think, oh, and they may really be in trouble and need your help. So, pardon, I'm still dealing with the smoke. Dealing with the, being aware of, compression CPR, which is far safer if you're, a bystander and it's not somebody you're related to than, what we used to learn, the mouth-to-mouth, is really important, and it is, in fact, as effective. And again, you never know when you're going to be in a situation, whether it's a friend, a family member, or somebody on the street, somebody at your job. Knowing what to do until, more professional help arrives is really, really critical. So the more people that know how to deal with all of these things, ask for an AED, all of these kinds of steps, you can save a life, and the more people we have from the community that are knowledgeable, the safer our community is. Thank you.
I just wanted to add one thing, that if you are ever doing the CPR, it's very important that if there's like a crowd of people and you want somebody to call 911, you point to the person, because if there's a whole crowd, many people might think that someone else is doing it and then no one does it. Also, it may take like 7 to 10 minutes for an ambulance to come. So it's very important that we get trained in this, because
that person's going to be dead in 7 to 10 minutes if they, if they need the CPR. So it's really important that we all get that training if possible. Saving a life is saving a world. So every life is a world, so try to get that. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you very much. Next report is going to be from Community Environment, Cultural Affairs, and Economic Development Committee.
I'll meet you on the other side. You're talking first.
I think I'm tall enough. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm Dwayne Joseph. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Community Environment, Cultural Affairs, and Economic Development Committee. My co-chair. Just quickly, we're going to be reporting on 2 meetings of the committee. The month before June, which is May. Our May 31st meeting and our June meeting. I'll quickly kind of update you on what was discussed during the May meeting. So the committee met on Wednesday, May 31st virtually. During the meeting, we heard presentations from the New York Office of Technology and Innovation, which is newly renamed. Most of you may remember it as DO-IT, the Office of Information Technology. They presented on 3G towers and installations, proposed installations in the district. There were 3 proposed sites. Those sites are still under consideration, but as we see it right now, they're going to be around, I think it's Avenue H or Avenue J. The map wasn't easy to read, and then lower down in the southeast end of the district, closer to the junction. There were some concerns raised by a national advocacy group, but there weren't many concerns raised from members of the actual residents of the actual CB14 community. One of the concerns that was raised was about the location of the current 4G sites, which are the Link kiosks that you see along Flatbush Avenue. The concern was because the 4G tower or 5G towers were going to also go along mostly on that corridor and along the eastern end of the district. The concern was at any point would there be some expansion, and we were told that there would be some discussion around that because of the infrastructure, they'd have to look into it. So the concern from the community residents was around availability of broadband access, affordable broadband access to all areas of the district. In addition, something I learned that I thought was an interesting point around the 5G towers. The reason for the 5G towers is so that multiple providers can utilize the single tower at one time. Currently, if you see the towers or the antennas that are attached to the tops of buildings and whatnot around the community, those are individual service providers. So it's Verizon, it's AT&T. The 5G towers allow multiple providers to access one unit and provide service through that one unit. So it'll actually reduce some of the antennas you see around the district, and also the 4G towers that are up now, the Link kiosks that are around now, they don't have any providers. They're not able to provide service to multiple providers, so they don't have a single provider coming through them. We also had a presentation from Julie Chow of the Public Bathroom Task Force. Yes, there's a task force on comfort stations. Julie presented us and discussed the idea the city their group was working on expanding the number of accessible comfort stations that are open to the public. If you've been around New York City, you know it is a challenge to find actual access to restrooms unless you're paying to use a restaurant and that sort of thing, or you're near a library. And it just would bode well for us to have more access to public restrooms. So there's a group that is now pushing the idea along with our local council member, Rita Joseph, or one of our local council members, Rita Joseph, who introduced legislation recently about expanding access to public restrooms. So the idea here is that through this task force, they're going to be pushing the initiative with the City Council and the other agencies involved to expand access to public restrooms. There was a request from Ms. Chow for us to consider a resolution to support the initiative. However, with some of the concerns and some of the caveats that were brought up by members of the public, for instance, there was a discussion around because, for example, open streets, any restaurants using, participating in open streets, since they are using public space, should they have to, should they be asked to provide access to their restrooms for the public? So that's a broader discussion that we're going to table until September, because it's just, again, this is one of those proposals that came up where it didn't give the board enough time to get broader input. So currently, the recommendation is to table this until the fall, so we can at least get an opportunity to get more information out to the board and to the community for feedback. And then, if I can get my phone restarted here. Something very exciting for me as a member of the community who is of Caribbean American descent. There was an update from the Prospect Park Alliance about the Shirley Chisholm Monument that is to be erected at the Parkside entrance of Prospect Park. If you all remember, there was a contest or an RFP put out to artists to develop a monument, you know, on behalf of Shirley Chisholm or representing Shirley Chisholm at the Parkside entrance right prior to the pandemic. It was delayed because of, like many other things, because of the pandemic. They are back on track to get that moving. We had a wonderful presentation from the artists and a representative from the DCLA who discussed design, materials, elements of it. There was a proposed design that incorporated shifting or making a lot of changes to the entryway of the Parkside entrance to Prospect Park. There were some recommendations from board members around the bike lane proposals, more safety initiatives like bollards or fencing or gating that kind of reroutes traffic in a safer way. There were some concerns about the use of the entrance now for the Lakeshore Center and access for their vehicles for loading and unloading. So there's still some items there that want to be discussed, but there was, and this is something we need to, if allowed to, there was, the committee voted to bring this as a recommendation that we provide a letter of support for this proposal to move forward, or as it moves forward. So if the board would allow, if the chair would allow.
Can I throw something in there?
Sure.
Yeah. Basically, our motion was to support the plan as had been presented to us. And I have to say, it was tremendously impressive. They covered all kinds of bases, all kinds of considerations, right down to making it difficult to climb on for fear of people getting hurt, avoiding trip hazards, making it accessible.
Oh, microphone.
Thank you. They had solicited tremendous community feedback regarding the design, the use of the site, appropriate materials, and we had come up with two things that we wanted to add to just a blanket motion of support, which is one, we wanted to encourage that they have a robust education component, and there had been some nice suggestions of other groups like the Brooklyn Public Library that could assist with that. And second, that they address these various transportation issues which Dwayne sort of touched on, but which a number of people knew very intimately. I think Joanne even knew all about the service entrance for the deliveries to Lakeside. And so there are a number of details that they didn't seem entirely familiar with, and we weren't comfortable giving a motion of support without raising these issues to them.
If I could just add to that, what came to light after that meeting when I spoke with members of Prospect Park Alliance is that the presentation that you received was on the monument, and then all of the infrastructure that we had questions about are questions for Prospect Park Alliance. So that will be a separate discussion. We can certainly keep that in as questions in the letter of support so that Prospect Park Alliance is apprised of that, but they were not able to answer it because that's an alliance matter.
I understand. So they weren't prepared to address those issues.
Correct.
Okay. So should we just cut the motion to simple support, and then we'll deal with those other issues? Are you comfortable with us
I
including
think your letter of support, and then
Leave them?
we can put those concerns.
the
in
education,
and-
the transportation? Okay.
Yeah.
So the issue is that they're coming before the Public Design Commission in the next couple of months, and so they would like to have something in hand from us, because they're also shopping it around to other community boards, indicating at least a general show of support, so when they go to the Public Design Commission, they'll be accepting of that, let us say. So then that would be the motion, that we support the plan as presented, so long as Parks and this group add a robust education component and address the transportation issues which have been raised in our meeting.
Is there any discussion on this motion about this letter of support? Any questions? Seeing none, do I have a second? Thanks. All those in favor? Anyone object? Anyone abstain? Anyone ineligible to vote? And there's your letter of support.
Wonderful. We have one last issue because we had a June 8th meeting. This is a rare instance where we actually had two same committee meetings within the last month. We were presented with the plan for the Uma Park renovation, restoration. And it's on the corner of Ocean and Woodruff, for those of you who may not know it. Parks has a $3 million budget to do the renovation, which I believe is something that we have been requesting for a goodly period of time.
And that money is from Councilmember Joseph.
And they brought back a list of priorities that they learned from their community meetings: ample seating, senior fitness, a better children's playground. And I got to tell you, as you may or may not know, it's on top of the subway tracks, and they have this little play subway car for the kids, where they get to go in and play and do whatever they want. They can dance in there without getting hassled. It's just absolutely perfect. It was a brilliant design.
May not just be for the kids.
I have to be out by 5, I think. They needed gathering space for birthday parties, and they needed a welcoming environment, which they've secured with lighting, heat mitigation, right down to the point where they would not have the sliding board facing south, because they know how hot it gets if it faces south. They're facing it north. I mean, that's the detail that they went into. And there's a lovely mural there that they're going to preserve as well. So briefly, they're breaking the park essentially in two. The point of the triangle where Ocean meets Woodruff will be the playground for children, and then the main seating area and senior fitness will continue along Ocean. And so I think people were in general extremely impressed with it. And Ed, who is one of the original founders of both the UMA group as well as the playground, gave it his good housekeeping seal of approval. So originally we had just put forth a motion of support for the plan as presented. But something that Ed had suggested is that one of his co-founders, a fellow named James Burns, he felt should be honored somehow at the park in some plaque or something or other. So I would leave it to you, since you made the original motion, would you care to add that we want that memorial for Mr. Burns included?
Yes. Okay. A very good friend and co-worker, co-founder of the UMA group named James Burns passed last year, and we were the same age. He died at 82. So it's something that I get very emotional about. He was one of the fighters to have that park established and named in honor of our organization way, way, way back, going back to Terry Rohde, who some of you might not even know, but that's a long time ago. He fought and fought and fought to have that playground established. Before it was anything, he was out there with us and our children cleaning up that area, removing refuse, fighting off the drug dealers. So I just kind of propose that something be there in that playground, the renovated playground, in his honor, whether it's a plaque, which I would like very much, or, naming a bench after him, or whatever it takes. But I just would love to see his name somewhere in that playground honoring his work on it. Okay.
That's perfect. Okay.
Let them finish. I mean, we're really running long here. Thank you.
That's it. So then basically, that's the motion. Is there a
Okay.
second?
So,
You want to just call it? or-
Yeah, just that Ed Powell is ridiculously humble, and he was absolutely the top person pushing apart 30 years ago. Gail, you were here at the time, and he is the guy that should be having a plaque. Susan Bolton.
Second the motion.
all right. Thank you. So we have the motion seconded. All those in favor of the letter of support? Yes, yes. Including some detail in the park or outside the park in remembrance of this this major figure. All those, aye? Anyone object? Anyone abstain? Anyone ineligible to vote? Great. Thank you
We
so
are out
much.
of here. Happy summer.
Thank you. All right, next up is Transportation Committee. They're already up and out, ready.
Good evening, everyone. Ed Sen, co-chair of the Transportation Committee, along with Steve Cohen. So the Transportation Committee had a meeting last week on June 6th. There were two items on the agenda that we addressed. So the first item was DOT provided an update on the expansion of city bike stations in CB14. This was a follow-up from the previous presentation at our March Transportation Committee meeting, where DOT provided an initial proposal over where these city bike locations would be placed, as far north as Parkside Avenue and as far south as Cortelli Road. So City Bike wants to locate stations every few blocks, so within a 3 to 5 minute walk, in order to accommodate folks who arrive at a docking station where there is no available bike or available dock. DOT conducted outreach with their street ambassadors to get feedback. There was also an online map where people could request and put stations. There were also virtual stakeholder meetings, and DOT received 615 comments that were collected. And DOT took into consideration previous recommendations, and the updates from March reflected this, including to accommodate MTA's Brooklyn Brooklyn Bus Network redesign along Beverly Road. So the installation of the city bike station is to be scheduled or to begin in June and July. So there are 21 planned stations in CB14, and I will just go over the intersections. So at Parkside Avenue and Parade Place, Parkside Avenue and Ocean Avenue, on Caton Avenue by the Church Avenue subway entrance, Caton Avenue at the intersection of and Flatbush, Linden Boulevard and Flatbush, Linden Boulevard and Bedford Avenue, East 18th Street and Church Avenue, East 21st Street and Church Avenue, Ocean Avenue and Tennis Court, Rugby Road and Albemarle Road, East 21st Street and Albemarle Road, Westminster Road and Beverly Road, Rugby and Beverly Road, East 17th Street and Beverly Road and East 19th, Beverly Road and Flatbush Avenue, Bedford Avenue and Beverly Road, Matthews Court and Coney Island Avenue, Cortelli Road and Stratford Road, Cortelli Road and Argyle Road, East 16th Street and Cortelli Road, and lastly, Cortelli Road and East 19th Street. So DOT said it would be responsive to feedback after the station installation and would consider making changes thereafter, though DOT cautioned that there probably would not be any changes that would be made within the first 6 months after this installation. City bike stations replaced approximately 2 to 3 parking spaces when they are placed in roadbeds, and members of the public expressed concerns regarding some of the specific locations of these city bike stations. Additionally, some members of the public also expressed a desire for city bike to expand further south, including to accommodate the Newkirk Plaza area, and DOT said members of the public would further, who want further expansion should write to DOT to request that. Yeah.
Thanks, Ed. Before I go into the discussion of the second part of the meeting regarding the expansion of the bike lane network, I did just want to say, with regard to the city bikes, I did receive a number of emails and comments and private comments and during the meeting and Facebook comments. So both before, during, and after the meeting, from community members who expressed displeasure that they felt like the city bike, the city bike installation was not properly communicated, or that they were caught off guard or blindsided. And I do want to note that in my summary of the of our last meeting, of our March meeting, regarding those city bike locations, my overview may have been a little too general in terms of the locations and having not mentioned the specific locations. And to the extent that I played a role in community members not being aware of where things were going, I apologize for that. And with regard to the bike lane network changes, I will try to make sure I am sufficiently detailed, because there is a larger footprint involved here. So I want to make sure community members and board members are aware of what's happening here. Thanks for that. So with regard to the bike lane network expansion, DOT shared a preliminary summary of its efforts to expand its bike lane network with existing connections to the southern portion of Prospect Park and additional east-west routes in sections of Ditmas Park and Midwood. CB14 has been identified as a priority bicycle district due in part to the high number of bicyclists being killed or seriously injured. A total of 36 cyclists were killed between 2016 and 2020 in our community district. DOT had come to the Transportation Committee back in 2021 with an initial proposal for bike lane expansion. So this proposal takes into account additional feedback since then, including via digital online survey and via in-person surveys. DOT statistics show that protected bike lanes result in a 34% reduction in risk of injury, standard bike lanes result in a 32% reduction in risk of injury, and shared lanes result in an 18% reduction in risk of injury. With regard to protected lanes, those result in a 15% drop in all crashes with injury and a 21% reduction in pedestrian injuries. The stats do show a small increase in cyclist injuries after implementation of protected bike lanes of 3%, but that's in spite of a 61% bike volume increase. And I just share those stats just so, because DOT wanted to provide context as to why, the thought underlying the bike lane expansion proposal. DOT noted that currently the 2 main paths to the parade grounds were missing a bike pathway. DOT's proposal is designed to address that by installing a mid-block signal on Parkside at the entrance to the parade grounds, installing enhanced crossings on Parade Place at Crook Avenue, and upgrading ramps and installing bike crossings on Caton and Argyle. So the current bike network in our district does not include any shared standard or protector lanes south of Avenue H. The current bike network also does not include many east-west bike lanes, only on portions of Beverly, Clarendon, Avenue H, and Campus Road. The proposal plan for 2023 would add proposed shared lanes along and through the parade grounds, a westbound standard lane on Cortelliu, an eastbound standard lane along Dorchester stopping at Flatbush Avenue, an eastbound standard lane along Foster, an eastbound standard lane along Farragut, a westbound standard lane on Avenue I between Rugby and Coney Island Avenue, On Avenue I between East 17th and Bedford, a lane that starts as shared and then becomes standard east of Ocean Avenue. An eastbound lane on Avenue J that starts as shared and then becomes standard at East 16th. A westbound standard lane on Avenue L. An eastbound lane on Avenue M that starts as standard and becomes shared at Ocean Avenue. And then between Avenue I and Avenue P, there would be northbound lanes at East 12th and East 18th, and southbound lanes at East 13th and East 17th. And those would be standard lanes. Importantly, there is no parking spot loss or travel lane loss under the current bike lane proposal. DOT is also proposing improving access through the parade grounds, and DOT is working with parks to address that currently. Another big part of the presentation, DOT sought feedback for the possibility of adding protected bike lanes along 18th Avenue and Ditmas Avenue and along Dorchester Road, though it cautioned that a protected bike lane on Ditmas would require making it one-way eastbound, and that would require a further feasibility study. Now, the Dorchester bike lane would be between Coney Island Avenue and Flatbush, the protected bike lane, that is, and Flatbush, while the 18th Avenue / Ditmas Avenue protected bike lane would go from Ocean Parkway to Flatbush. There would also be some parking loss at corners in order to maintain adequate visibility in the event those protected bike lanes were installed, at least under the current proposal, talking 1 to 2 parking spots per block. And DOT also noted that if this were to happen, making 18th Avenue one-way would also require rerouting the B8 buses from 18th Avenue, so that's another consideration. Another possibility raised by DOT along Ditmas Avenue and 18th would be adding a protected bike lane, but keeping traffic two-way, but that would require removing all parking along that route. DOT said they would come back to the board with actual protected bike lane proposals before implementing anything, and caution that the earliest that would be approximately from a year from now, and that's the earliest, so it may be later than that. Councilmember Kalman Yeager attended the meeting, and he expressed reservations regarding the bike lane expansion proposal, citing DOT's lack of enforcement and mitigation to address current traffic conditions. And he specifically expressed opposition to installing bike lanes on Avenue J and Avenue M, and East 12th, East 13th, and East 18th for expressed logistical and practical reasons. After further comment from a community member, DOT did seem to be open to the possibility of modifying the Avenue J and Avenue M proposals, but that wasn't entirely clear. And although it was not part of DOT's presentation, there was some discussion during the meeting about the potential of alterations to Ocean Avenue south of Farragut to accommodate a potential bike lane. Last item that arose, and Chair Brown alluded to it earlier, there was a summary of the meeting held by Congresswoman Clark on May 19th regarding the Inflation Reduction Act with regard to transportation-related issues. There were potential infrastructure projects discussed to address flooding issues. There is the electric vehicle tax credit under the Inflation Reduction Act that provides up to $7,500 for new electric vehicle purchases and up to $4,000 for used electric vehicle purchases, though there are some restrictions. There will also be $1 billion invested in clean heavy-duty vehicles, including zero-emission school buses, garbage trucks, and buses with a focus on communities with poor air quality. And I echo Chair Brown's suggestion to look at the summary that was provided that discusses all the impacts of the Inflation Reduction Act, and because that was very helpful. So have a great summer, everyone. Thanks for dealing with us, and yeah, you'll hear from us soon. Thanks.
Also, just remember that the meetings themselves are on our website on the YouTube channel, and the proposals, the deck from both of those presentations are also on the website.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, there's a question?
Yes, about the
Oh.
accidents, sorry. About bicycle accidents, it didn't include e-bike accidents as well, and are e-bikes allowed on these designated areas?
So we can look into that in the back.
Oh,
We can
we're
do
gonna-
service delivery in from the office.
Yeah, we'll have well, we're not going to have a conversation about this, though. Yes.
I just wanted to know that I think that, and I maybe this will time too, a couple of those streets, I think the east and west.
It's on the website if anybody wants to fact check.
I understand why the report was so detailed, because this is, there was a lot of commentary that people felt like they didn't have enough information, so I do appreciate that you reiterated all of those intersections and where the new stations are going to be in your report. All righty. Next is Youth Services Education Library Committee. Do you have a report?
I do not have a report.
No. Next is Housing and Land Use Committee. Do you have a report?
Not particularly, just.
Although I just want to point something out to you. Myself, the district manager, and Gregory Alvarez and Talisha Sainville worked very hard on the borough president's comprehensive plan in terms of creating a matrix that we sent back. We literally used the determinants of health, and we outlined it with our needs, and then we gave them ideas. I bring this up because we talked about third spaces where people can go and hang out and do things, and one of the sites was Zuma Park. And one of the sites that we identified for adult use, exercise equipment, was Zuma Park. And guess what they're putting in Zuma Park based on our recommendation. So I just want to say what good work that committee is doing. That concludes our topical committees. And moving on to our ad hoc committee, is there a report from the Flatbush African Burial Ground Task Force? Excuse me. I heard no report. A quick thank you to East Midwood Jewish Center and Wayne Rosenfeld and Mark Moss for live streaming this meeting. This brings us to our public comment period. Board members are expected to remain for the public comment period. Speakers can sign up for time with Patricia Olander at the back of the room. That's closed now. Sign up. Matters of civic interest, the announcements of public events are invited. No partisan political appeals or advertising of for-profit enterprises are permitted. Each speaker will be permitted up to 3 minutes and may not receive time from another speaker. Speakers are directed to address the assembly from the front of the room. At the conclusion of the 3-minute period, each speaker must return to his or her seat. The board has an obligation to conduct its business in an orderly manner. Any person preventing the meeting from continuing may be asked to leave. The intent of the public comment period is to permit the board and the community a chance to hear diverse perspectives on public issues. Accordingly, speaking time will be assigned to the first speakers from the different groups, then speakers addressing different issues, and then finally, time permitting, to additional speakers on an issue from a single group. It is now 8:46. The first speaker will be Nancy Lulu, followed by Lauren Collins. This list is not long, don't worry.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Oops. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. For those who don't know me, my name is Nancy Lulu. I'm here representing District Attorney Eric Gonzalez. I would like to extend greetings on behalf of DA Gonzalez to everyone as well. I just wanted to share that on May 16th, the Brooklyn DA's office announced a 140-count indictment of 32 members of the 8-Tray and the 9-Way street gangs, spinning charges related to 12 shootings and 13 shooting victims, including innocent bystanders. This type of takedown will have a positive and measurable impact for communities of Flatbush, Canarsie, and East Flatbush. Furthermore, we are committed to ensuring the safety and security of all Brooklyn residents. I also wanted to share some of the events that we'll be holding this month. On June 15th, the Brooklyn DA's office will be holding a World Abuse Awareness Day presentation and resource fair at St. Francis College at 8:45 a.m. at 179 Livingston Street. You could RSVP by calling 718-250-3888. Also on June 29th, we are holding a Caribbean American Heritage Month event at Brooklyn Children's Museum at 145 Brooklyn Avenue. from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. You could also RSVP at the same number, 718-250-3888. And I want to conclude by thanking Community Board 14 for allowing me to speak this evening. And I also want to wish all the fathers a happy upcoming Father's Day, and hope everyone has a great summer and a safe summer as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lauren Collins, followed by Sabrina DeJus.
Hi, good evening. I'm Lauren Collins from the Church Avenue bid and Flatbush Avenue bid. First, thank you to the board and to the Community Environment Committee. Our merger of the two bids went to the City Council on Thursday and passed. So that was, when you hear on the news about the composting, the required composting, we were in that same vote. So that's how I know it passed. Also, we have some events coming up on June 30th for Caribbean American Heritage Month. We have a steel pan concert, a free community concert next to the King's Theater. We rented the entire courtyard from 4 to 8. On July 30th is the Flatbush Avenue Street Fair. And on August 16th is a back-to-school event also next to King's Theater. And last thing is, you know, we had these containers, these city bin containers that we installed in 3 different sections of CB14. We fixed one of them that was broken, and we installed some posts to keep cars, a car hit one of them, so to keep cars from hitting them. So hopefully those will help get those areas cleaner. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next is Sabrina DeJus, followed by Ellie Slavin.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sabrina DeJust. I am the Constituent Service Liaison for Councilmember Farrah Lewis. I bring greetings on her behalf. My announcements will be very short. I do have flyers on the table up front for our 4th annual Juneteenth celebration at 10 Grand Army Plaza in front of the Brooklyn Public Library. We are starting at 11:30 sharp, so we encourage everyone to come. It will be one of our biggest annual celebrations that we host every year, so we hope we can see all of your faces. In addition to our regular services we offer in person, housing on Wednesdays from 10 to 4, immigration services by appointment only on Tuesdays. Our office is located at 1434 Flatbush Avenue. We can be reached at 718-629-2900, District 45 at council.nyc.gov, and have a good night.
You're amazing. Next will be Ellie Slavin, followed by Portia Edwards, and that will be the last speaker. Portia.
You beat me this time. You're shorter than I'm usually. So good evening. My name is Ali Slavin. I'm Community Liaison for Congressman Yvette Clarke. First and foremost, I want to thank Community 14 for taking part in the initiatives that the Congresswoman had hosted. We are at 222 Lenox Road between Rogers and Nostrand. We deal in federal issues, and of course, we partake and partner with our local elected officials. I just want to say one thing. In the office, I handle passports. And that's something that I think everyone in this room has some type of connection to passports. We all travel. Now, there have been hundreds and thousands of new applications because of the 3 years that people stayed home. So the passport, UCIS, and the NPIC are really, really backlogged. So check your passports. Make sure you have at least 6 months valid passport for travel. If you plan on traveling, tell your family members you need to apply now either through the post office or by library. When you apply, do pay the extra fees for expediting and overnighting. Make sure you get your locator number. It's 9 digits. Now, if you're up to 5, 6, 7 days before travel, you still don't have your passports and you live in our district, do contact our office. We were successful in obtaining in-person passports where you go in, spend 2-3 hours, and walk out with a passport. But safe is better than sorry. Make sure you apply for your passports now. Also, the Congresswoman continues her listening sessions. We had Community Board 14. We're going to have one this week and next week in Community Board Community Board 14. Next week, she's having one in Community Board 18, and end of the month, Community Board 9. and it's been very, very helpful for us to hear the needs of the community. Okay, that's about it that I have for this evening. I want to wish you all a healthy and happy summer. Stay safe, and we reconvene. And good night again.
Thank you very much. Next will be Portia Edwards.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Portia Edwards. Eli is right. He actually helped me with my passport, and I got it within 2 weeks. So if you need help, go to their office. They're really good. Portia. Yes. I was in Atlanta, and I needed help, and he helped me. So thank you very much. Okay, so again, I'm the district director for State Senator Zellner Myrie. I'm going to try to be brief, but a lot has happened in June. So this June alone, we've passed about 7 bills, and I'm very, very excited to talk about it. The Assembly member touched on it a little bit earlier. We passed clean slate in both houses, and so we're super excited about that. It's now just waiting on the governor to sign it. We're super excited about that. Predatory Marketing Prevention Act passed. Also, protecting our children from all of the bad things that are out there in our advertising world for foods and all that stuff. Mass shooting bill passed, which declares 4 or more people being shot as a mass shooting. That was also with Assemblywoman Monique Chandler-Waterman. Our bill S2311 passed. It increases the fines on corporations who are guilty of committing financial crimes, and so that's pretty important. Wrongful convictions has been passed, and I'm super excited about that. It helps people who have been wrongfully convicted clear their name faster. SUNY Downstate bill has passed. I don't have much details on that one. I didn't write it down, I'm sorry. Okay, so announcements for the summer. Senator on Your Block is starting in July. Senator on Your Block is something that we do. We go out into the district, talking to people about what's going on in their neighborhood. Really just come out and talk to the senator. That's where we do the most of our work. And so we could be on your block. If you want us on your block, let us know. I'll be here until the end of the meeting, which prayerfully is in like 10 minutes. We're having a basketball tournament like we do. This will be our 3rd annual basketball tournament. There will be 2. Both will be held at Wingate Park. If you're interested, you have children that want to be a part of it, please let our offices know. Our block party and back to school giveaway is happening in September this year. Usually it's the last week in August, but it will be September 9th, the Saturday after Labor Day. It's going to be on Lincoln Road between Notion and New York. It is a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So please come out. It is the best way for you to get to know our office and who we are, along with the senator on your blocks. Events-wise, we are doing a Juneteenth celebration on June 17th.
That's time. But you can wrap it up.
Oh, okay, thank you. On June 17th, we're doing a Juneteenth celebration. It is going to start, it's a march from the Flatbush African Burial Grounds, starting at 11 a.m., and we're going to march all the way to the Lefferts Prospect Park House. So please come out. That's all, thanks.
Thank you very much. This ends our public comment period. So you might know this already, but First Vice Chair Dwayne Joseph got married on June 3rd to a wonderful, in-kind Caroline Davis, who came out to the youth conference and was just a ball of fire. So let us congratulate Dwayne and welcome Caroline into our board family. Well, enjoy the summer, everyone. We did a lot of hard work during this last session. Looking forward to seeing you all next Wednesday at our gathering. Motion to adjourn. Seconded. Bye. See you Wednesday. This meeting of Community Board 14 is adjourned at 8:57 p.m.